You're right there guys, this is Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft, and today we're doing a video review of 6mm Airsoft, an outdoor woodland site with plenty on offer, great terrain and very professionally run. Now I have been to this place before, went last time almost a year ago, and before then way back in the past when it used to be under different management and went by Stormforce Airsoft. So let's take a look at how it's being run these days. So 6mm Airsoft is located north of Birmingham, near Rugeley, along the A51, down a place called Bardy Lane. There is a gravel track that leads up to the site entrance, which is the woodland itself, and I had no trouble navigating to the site or finding the site entrance. Now there is plenty of car parking on site, however, the main dedicated car park tends to fill up quite quickly. There was like 185 players on the day when I turned up, so what they ended up doing was parking cars on the grass alongside the gravel road on the way in. So the sooner you turn up on a game day, the closer you're going to be to the safe zone and the less distance you're going to have to transport your gear from the car into that safe zone. Now, as for the safe zone itself, exceptionally nice, clean, everything's undercovered. Like, regardless of what the weather's doing, you're going to have plenty of space to set up. You've got a load of bench space underneath big awnings. So even if it's absolutely throwing it down with rain, you're not going to have to worry about your gear getting wet. Just turn up, find some space, of which there's plenty of, and get ready for your game day. So walk-on prices for the day then are £25 if you're a site member and £30 if you're not. You don't need to book in advance if you're bringing your own kit. You can just turn up on the day. Hire packages are available and they're £25 or £30 depending if you go for the upgraded option. And it's really kind of worth going into these hire packages real quick. Because when I go to a usual site and you order a hire package, you just get any old gun with usually a battery just duct taped to the side of it. Here you go, here's your introduction to Airsoft. Okay, great. But what they do at 6mm is when you book in advance, you can pick specifically which gun you want. So if you want to run an AK, G36, M4, UMP, MP5, you can ask for that specifically and they will give you that in the hire package. It also comes with a face mask, 1,000 rounds of ammo, and a single point sling. And the upgraded package doesn't improve the performance of the gun per se, but it gives you an extra 1,000 rounds of ammo, a holographic sight, and a foregrip. And if you're the kind of person that's being introduced to Airsoft for the first time, those little extra tactical things can really help sell the feel of Airsoft a hell of a lot more. And I would genuinely recommend, if you are hiring, get the upgraded one. A, it will give you a better feel, but more importantly, those extra 1,000 rounds worth of ammo can really make the difference. If you're stingy with the trigger, 1,000 rounds will last you a day, like if you don't particularly fire that much. But if you want to really get in there and you fire on full auto a lot, 2,000 rounds, a lot more comfortable. You will probably not exceed that during the day, and it would be cheaper than if you went with the basic package and bought more BBs on the day. That would be more expensive. So in my opinion, the upgraded one is actually quite a good one to go for. So as for other facilities on the site, they do have chemical toilets on the day, dedicated male-female bathrooms. There is hot food on the site, but it is not included as part of your walk-on price. It seemed like it was provided by a third-party catering company, and from what I can discern from the Facebook group, I think that was their last day of actually operation on site. So I can't say with certainty that they will have hot food for future, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Even if they didn't, the on-site shop is exceptionally well stocked. You've got your usual drinks, snacks that you would expect, airsoft consumables, BBs, gas, grenades, these sort of things, but also clothing options, iPro, like additional airsoft accessories. It really seemed like the only thing they didn't have on sale was actual riffs, AEGs, pistols, that sort of thing. But anything else you could need on an airsoft day, it was there. Like my friend needed a new iPro because his had knackered on the trip over, so just got some from the shop. So yeah, exceptionally well stocked, and I have a lot on offer. So the first thing I noticed about the staff on day then was just how many of them there are, as well as their professional demeanour. Like, it seems like every station that needed manning during the day always had someone on it. There was like 3 people on chrono, one beforehand snipping off old tags to make sure no one tried to pretend, oh yeah, this is a tag I put on from somewhere else. No, you had to use their tags. They even had like tiny scales for weighing BBs in case it was a bit sus whether people were using the weights they claimed they had. You had a dedicated station for signing in your waivers, one for actually booking on for the day, one for the hire package, one for the shop. Like, staff were everywhere, and they're all really quite welcoming, informed, and had a really good professional demeanour about them. So, the morning safety brief, it was split into 2 parts, and it did kind of go on for quite a while as a new player to the site, but they do split it in halves. So the first half is for new players and hires, like just to get over the basics of the site itself. And if you're a regular of the site, they say that you don't have to attend this. You can use that rest of time to set up. The second half of the brief is mandatory and goes into specific site rules, health and safety, this sort of thing. One of the rules that really stood out to me, though, was it leans into the film sim nature of the site, I think. And it's to do with if you're running a sniper specifically. So when you sign on for the day, if you are planning on running a sniper loadout, you get a different coloured armband to everybody else so that they can help balance the teams to make sure that snipers are equally distributed. But also, if you are running a sniper, they say that you're not allowed to run an AEG as a secondary, but they don't want you to run no backup weapon at all, which it's a bit weird because I'm the kind of person that loves to run an AEG as a sniper. Yes, it's heavy, it's bulky, it gets in the way, but no one expects you to be running an AEG when they try and creep up on a sniper. And if someone's in your engagement range and you need to make a push, you can just drop the rifle, pick up the AEG and go in. This is what they're trying to discourage. They're saying that if you are a sniper, you're supposed to have a sniper's loadout. It's a specific role that you are fulfilling, and you need to try and meet that. I'd say if you don't want people to have an AEG, sure, it's your site, it's your toy set, you can do what you like. But especially in like the earlier months of the year when it's really quite cold, I think it's a bit unreasonable to demand that people would bring a gas backup instead, or a pistol. Like I suppose even an AEG pistol would be the same, an AEP, sorry. But yeah, just something to be aware of. Like they want you to run a backup as a sniper, but not an AEG. Fair enough. Something else I noticed throughout the day was their medic rule. It seemed like throughout the entirety of the day, everyone was basically on a 60-second bleed out. And once you had bled out, you could either find a fixed respawn post, and as long as there's no one in reasonable distance around you or a firefight going on around it, you can just tap the post, you're back in the game. Or if you find a dedicated player medic on your way back, they can get you into the game a bit closer to the action. And I get the distinct impression that this was more of a people management system as opposed to a specific medic thing, because with 185 players on site, like, you could get some real choke points if you didn't manage traffic particularly well. And this seems to me like a really quite good solution because it encourages people to not tag back in and just immediately shoot someone in the back that was right in front of them, but they're not so far away from the action that they can't get into it or they can't get to other areas of the site. So yeah, really quite a fan of how they handled this, honestly. So as for the players themselves then, the general feeling I got from that the day was that everyone's decent, they're here to have a good time, everyone's here having fun. I did overhear some mumblings from other players about potential non-hit taking issues throughout the site. Because of how dense the terrain is, I think it is really quite hard to say for absolute certainty that guy's not taking his hits. It's entirely possible with the amount of shrubs on site, you're just hitting the twig of destiny again and again. So yeah, I can understand how a lot of these things would happen. It's a big site as well. It's hard for marshals to keep track of everything. The only thing that I encountered personally was when I see another player coming down the hill and I asked them, "Are you dead?" And he turns to me, he raises his rifle, so I put 3 rounds in his shoulder. He still raises his gun and shoots me anyway. Not particularly good feelings, but I did raise this with the marshals and they were looking into it. Now, I didn't expect anything to happen for this purely because this was the most like generic multicam M4 person you have ever seen, so going to be hard to pick out in a crowd. But it's good that the marshals were still actively dealing with it, actively trying to speak on this and try and resolve it. So yeah, it's good to see that they were handling the situation. Now, considering there's nearly 200 people, and that is the only instance I experienced throughout the day, I thought hit taking was really quite good on the whole. So yeah, good vibes from the players in general and had a really good day with them. So what's the site terrain like then? Well, 6mil is primarily an outdoor airsoft woodland site, so expect a lot of trees and a lot of greenery. Now, the ground is actually really quite clear for the most part, so it makes it easy to traverse. It is full of smooth, but sometimes quite sharply inclined hills, which, whilst you can get over them because there's not much tripping you up, they are a little challenging for some players because of how steep they are. What they really do, though, is help break up sight lines, and the hills really make the site feel far bigger than it actually is in terms of raw acreage. The main exception here is the centre of the woodland, which is overtaken by large rhododendron bushes that are hugely obscuring and difficult, although possible, to navigate through. If you've ever played at the Ground Zero Airsoft Festival, you'll know what to expect with these. These shrubs massively reduce the ranges of engagement, as it's entirely possible to not notice a hostile player until they're just a few metres away, and it gives an almost CQB guerrilla warfare fighting feel to these parts of the site. Now, the raw terrain of the site would be exceptional on its own. However, you will almost always find yourself fighting around one of the many high-quality and thematic bases or man-made structures around the site. There's road checkpoints, artillery positions, watchtowers, compounds, and even a minefield, which I really like the look of. No active explosives here. It's just essentially just an excuse for them to dig some really big blast holes in the ground for cover. But the little touches and signs about the place really sell this as a location and sells it more as a feature as opposed to just the bare open terrain it would have been if they hadn't to put this in. So what were game types on the site like then? Well, the first one took all morning. It was a huge game with many different moving parts and objectives in play at any one time. So the main premise of it was that it was based around a trader within a neutral zone. Players would find packets lost from the trader's stash around the site and be able to hand them in for cash for their team. To allow players to approach this trader, the position they were based in had a clearly marked zone where players were not allowed to shoot in or out of. And once they left this zone, they could not return for a few minutes to prevent anyone abusing the neutral zone mechanic. The packets would have to be dropped by dead players, so it's entirely possible for these to be intercepted by the other team before they get handed in to the trader. Some players on each team marked by green armbands were carrying dog tags that opposing players could steal from them during their bleed out timer and again hand in for cash for their team. This cash would be spent to secure specific side missions, gaining intel on objects at certain locations on the map that could be retrieved. On top of this, there was also a location that had to be held as long as possible. So if ever you got lost among the myriad of objectives that were happening around you, this location was always going to have a simple fight going on just to keep you in the game in case everything else was getting a bit too complex for you. It was really refreshing to start the day off with a big game that lasted all morning instead of the usual quick-fire skirmishes that most sites start with, especially considering the amount of objectives in play and the extra effort that had gone into building a narrative around the game to give reasons why we were fighting. The game after lunch was another long one. Teams of players were dressed in orange jumpsuits and hidden around the site, and these would be hostile to everyone until they were hit. If they were captured during a bleed-out time, they could be escorted to one of several positions on site to be scored for points. However, if they were hit again whilst being escorted and not recaptured within a 30-second window, they would turn hostile again and engage everybody in sight. Great game here with a lot of mishaps when players don't notice that the person they're escorting is just ever so quietly counting down until they can shoot all the people around them in the back. There was one more game as well on the site when I called it. Now, I unfortunately had to call it before I could see this last game. I was absolutely knackered from running up and down these hills all day, and the sear had just died on my sniper rifle, so it's like, yeah, probably time to pack it up. But considering the amount of effort that went into these two exceptionally long games, yeah, I'm pretty convinced I could say that third one would have been quite fun as well. So ultimately then, should you pay a visit to SIXMIL Airsoft? Now, if you've seen all the footage I've put up of this place, like seen all the positions, the hills, the trees, and everything that was going on here, and you don't want to visit it, chances are it's because you're a strictly indoor CQB player. For me, I absolutely love this, and if you're an outdoor woodland kind of person, you need to see this site. I love how well run and professional it was. I loved how the site had been built up with multiple positions that were thematic, the amount of effort that had gone into game modes with props and narrative. Yeah, this was a great day. Aside from one potential instance with another player, I had an almost perfect game day here. And I know for a fact, if ever I'm planning on introducing people to the sport of airsoft, this is the place I am taking them. It's got everything as such a complete professional package. Absolutely loved it. And it's great value for money. For the same price, it's a tenner cheaper than what Anzio Camp was, and everything is just newer, fresher, and just as well run, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. If you like Woodland and you're Midlands based, go play at SIXMIL. You will like the day. I know I did, and I'm certainly going back the next time I can get opportunity to, because, oh boy, I want to do more of this site. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my video review of 6mm Airsoft. If you have any questions for me, or maybe you want to share your own experiences of the site, the comment section is down there. And until next time, this has been Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft.